At exactly 11:38 p.m., I pulled into an old roadside motel outside Flagstaff, Arizona, after driving for nearly 8 hours. Rain hammered against my windshield, and my GPS had completely lost signal somewhere along the desert highway. The motel's faded neon sign flickered weakly, reading Sunset Pines Motel. Vacancy. It looked abandoned, but every hotel for miles was fully booked. I grabbed my overnight bag and walked into the lobby. An elderly clerk sat behind the counter watching a black and white security monitor. Without asking my name, he smiled strangely and slid a room key across the desk. "Room 12, he said quietly. "You've stayed here before." I laughed awkwardly and replied, "No, this is my first time." His smile disappeared. "Not yet," he whispered, "but it will be." Confused, I signed the guest register. As I reached for my key, I noticed something disturbing. The signature already written on the line above mine looked exactly like my handwriting. Even the name matched, Ethan Brooks. The date beside it, however, wasn't today's date. It was tomorrow. Thinking it was some bizarre prank, I asked the clerk who had signed it. He looked toward the security monitors and calmly answered, "You did, about 20 minutes ago." A chill crawled up my spine. I turned toward the cameras, but before I could ask another question, every monitor suddenly filled with static. Trying to ignore the growing unease, I walked toward room 12. The hallway was unnaturally silent. Every door was closed, yet I could hear faint whispers coming from behind them. The carpet looked worn with age, and the wallpaper peeled from the walls in long strips. When I reached my room, the key slid effortlessly into the lock. The room itself looked ordinary, except for one thing. Sitting on the small wooden desk was an old VHS camcorder. A sticky note attached to it read, "Watch before midnight." I had never seen the camera before. Curiosity got the better of me. I pressed the play button. The footage showed the motel parking lot during daylight. A car identical to mine pulled into the parking space outside room 12. I watched myself step out, carrying the same backpack I was wearing now. The timestamp in the corner showed tomorrow's date. Future me walked directly toward the camera, looked into the lens and said, "If you're watching this, leave before 12 a.m. Don't check the CCTV." The recording abruptly ended with loud static and a scream. I looked at my phone. 11:52 p.m., only 8 minutes until midnight. I decided I'd had enough. I packed my bag and headed for the door. The handle wouldn't move. I pulled harder, still locked. I called the front desk, but the room phone emitted only distorted whispers. Then there was a slow knock on the door, 3 deliberate taps. I looked through the peephole. No one was there. As I stepped back, another knock came, this time from inside the room's closet. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. The closet door slowly creaked open by itself. Inside hung only a single motel employee uniform. Attached to it was a name tag reading Ethan. Suddenly, the room's television switched on without warning. Instead of a TV channel, it displayed the motel's live CCTV system. Every camera angle cycled automatically until camera 7 appeared. It showed the motel lobby. I watched myself standing at the reception desk, checking into the motel. The timestamp read 12:03 a.m. tomorrow. The clerk smiled at future me exactly as he had smiled at me only minutes earlier. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Then the version of me on camera 7 suddenly stopped signing the register. He slowly turned his head and looked directly into the CCTV camera. Then, he looked straight at me through the television screen. My blood froze. He slowly raised one finger to his lips and whispered, "Don't let him see you." Before I could react, the feed cut to another camera. This one overlooked the hallway outside room 12. Standing directly outside my door was a tall figure wearing the motel manager's uniform. But where his face should have been, there was only complete darkness. The lights inside my room flickered violently. The knocking returned, louder than before. Bang, bang, bang. The door shook as though someone was trying to break it down. I grabbed a chair and wedged it beneath the handle. Suddenly, the television switched to camera 12. It showed the inside of my room from the ceiling corner. I looked up. There was no camera in my room, yet on the screen I could clearly see myself standing beside the bed. Behind me, something slowly emerged from the bathroom. It looked human, but its face constantly shifted into different motel guests, different employees, and finally, my own face. I spun around. The bathroom was empty. When I looked back at the television, the creature had moved closer. It leaned toward the camera and smiled. Then every CCTV monitor displayed the same message: check-in complete. My room key suddenly became burning hot in my hand. The number 12 engraved on it slowly changed to 13. I looked toward the door. The room number outside had changed as well. I was no longer in room 12. The whispers outside became voices. "Open the door," they repeated. "Your room is ready." The hallway echoed with footsteps, but there were far too many to count. I peered through the peephole once more. Dozens of motel guests now stood silently outside my room. Their clothes looked soaked from rain, and every one of them wore an identical room key around their neck. None of them blinked. Then, in perfect unison, they all looked up and smiled. The television changed again. It now showed security footage from years earlier. Every missing traveler who had ever checked into Sunset Pines Motel appeared on the screen. Each one entered room 12, but none of them ever walked out. Instead, hours later, someone wearing their face calmly checked in again. The guest became the employee. The employee became the guest. The cycle never ended. I refused to become part of it. I grabbed the heavy desk lamp and smashed the room window. Glass exploded outward into the rain. I climbed through the opening and dropped into the muddy parking lot. As I reached my car, I noticed something impossible. Every vehicle in the lot was covered in decades of dust, except mine. My driver's door was already open. Sitting behind the steering wheel was another version of me. He looked exhausted, older, and covered in dried blood. He rolled down the window. "You're too late," he said. "I escaped once, but the motel always sends one of us back." Before I could answer, his body suddenly dissolved into black smoke, leaving the driver's seat empty. My phone buzzed. A new notification had appeared from an unknown number. "Guest transferred successfully." I jumped into the car and sped down the empty highway without looking back. After nearly an hour, I finally reached the nearest sheriff's office. The deputies listened carefully but found no motel listed anywhere on that stretch of road. The address on my room key didn't exist. At sunrise, officers drove me back to where Sunset Pines Motel should have been. There was nothing there except an abandoned concrete foundation overgrown with weeds. According to county records, the motel had burned to the ground in 1989, killing everyone inside. For weeks, I convinced myself it had all been a hallucination caused by exhaustion. Then one evening, while checking my credit card statement, I noticed a pending charge. Sunset Pines Motel, room 13. The transaction was dated tomorrow. My phone vibrated one final time. A confirmation email appeared from the motel. "Thank you for staying with us again, Mr. Brooks. Your room is ready. Check in. Tomorrow, 11:38 p.m.